Hi everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to the Go podcast. My name is Borna and this is another episode of Coffee and Tea with Borna Z. This show is inspired by tea with Gary V, and I really love how he did his style of producing content. So in this episode, we're going to talk about sales. Sales is a big part of my life. I fell in love with it when I was a kid, and at one point I decided to go into sales and direct my career towards it because I had a feeling that it's the only department in the company where I worked for where you could actually influence your paycheck. And I love that fact because I always gave a lot of effort into what I was doing, and I noticed that after a few years of working there, pretty much nothing changed. So I was like, all right, how can I earn more money, right? And then I met people from the sales department and they told me like, if you do more calls or if you do a lot more meetings, you get more clients, and more clients means a higher paycheck because you get commissions and you get rewarded based on your productivity. So I decided to find a job in sales, and after that I worked in a few companies where I used my sales skills. Later I transferred to more the human resource side, but ended up in sales again, and I think it's a super valuable skill. And today I want to talk about what are some of the most useful books that can help you improve your sales career, because one of the things that you'll notice is that with sales, you're never finished. You can always learn something new, and you can always add a little piece to your kind of portfolio of skills that you're using on the cold calls or on the meetings. And everybody wants to improve themselves to kind of get better results. So I think that reading and listening to podcasts are kind of the basic things that you can do. Watching YouTube videos are there as well. Getting a mentor is also up there, and that's one of the best ones, but sometimes it's hard to get a mentor. So there are a lot of really good salespeople who are mentors to other people, and then they decide to write books or create videos about it. And if you read that, you can improve your skills a lot. So let's get right into it, guys. Grab some coffee, grab some tea. Today I'm sipping on some red berries infusion from Tesco. This is not a sponsored video. I just picked it up at Tesco, and it's nice. It's fruity, summery, but hey, let's get back to the sales skills, okay? So I basically outlined 10 books for you guys that I think that will be good to read if you're starting in your sales career and if you want to kind of refresh or improve your knowledge in sales. First of all, I would start with Daniel Pink's To Sell is Human. Now that's a great book because it tackles the basic idea, and the problem that a lot of people come up on is that why are you selling? Why is this so fake? This is not natural. And in this book, he basically says that anything that we're doing, we're kind of selling. We're either selling ourselves or our services or an idea that we want to convey to another person. Or if we want to make the other person laugh, we're kind of selling our humor through our story to the other person. So you're basically always selling. And Daniel Pink has a nice way of explaining things, how you can improve your sales skills. First of all, he removes the burden that you should feel ashamed or worried that you're selling something. You should feel fine with it because it's human, it's natural. And there are a lot of concepts that he's explaining in that book, but one of the ones that I liked is attunement. He basically explains it as thinking as the other person thinks and feels. You basically have to put yourself in the shoes of the other person to kind of really feel where they are, who they are, what they're doing, where they are going. And then if you know that, then you can kind of visualize how to sell to them. And it's a great book. I would definitely recommend it as a starter on this list. Now, you might have heard of the precursor of this book, which is the 1 Minute Manager, which is an absolutely amazing book, and I highly recommend it. This book is kind of like a part 2 of it, focused on sales. And Larry focuses in this book a lot on the person, because a lot of people sell just to get numbers up. He emphasizes in this book that you need to sell in kind of a human way and need to focus on the person. Also, you need to provide value and focus on the outcome that actually solves the problem or brings value to the person that you're talking to. He calls it selling on purpose. Basically, do you know the purpose why you're doing this? Not just, oh, this person is another number on the list. Why do you want to help this person? What will happen when you help this person? And he's basically looking at it through the idea of you are there to help the person make their life better or use a better product or save money or whatever it is that you're selling. But basically he talks that a lot of referrals and networking comes from this concept because you get in tune with the person and you get to create a great relationship with them, and then the deals just start rolling in. On number 3 is Jeffrey Gitomer's Little Red Book of Selling. Now, you might have heard about this book. It's very popular, and Jeffrey has a really cool YouTube channel where he explains a lot of the concept that he's learned and how he's doing in his red shirt, very on brand, on point, but he basically explains 12 and a half principles for selling forever as the title says. And it's a great idea because a lot of people look at sales in a way that they just want to sell once. And that's kind of it. Get the money and get out of there, right? But he emphasizes in this book that if you create a relationship in a proper way, people are going to keep coming back to you. Plus, they're going to refer you to other people. So the networking effect just kicks in and you get a lot more clients just rolling into you. So it's an amazing concept, and that's not the only one. He has 12 and a half concepts there. The book is written in a really, really cool way. You have a lot of things written on the sides and in red letters, and it's really well done. So I highly recommend this one. It deserves spot number 3, and it will help you a lot with your sales process. Now, you might say sales tactics and how to do things and networking might not be enough always. You might be stuck at some really, really hard negotiation process or a really difficult situation where you kind of don't see the outcome of how you can get there, and people are not in understanding with each other. And then what do? What happens there? Like, you might say that there's no book that can help you with that, right? But on number 4, I put a really, really good book from Chris Voss. The book is called Never Split the Difference. And I love the title. I was like, Never Split the Difference? He basically was a former FBI hostage situation negotiator, which basically meant that if criminals would take hostages, he would be the person they would call to negotiate with them about their demands, their needs. And there, if you make a mistake, it can cost someone's life. So it's not just like oh, you didn't get the deal in sales. Literally, the title of the book says negotiating like your life depended on it. And I really love that concept, and it made me think, like, what would really happen if, like, you would have to negotiate, and if you fail, you die. Like, I mean, it's a horrible thing to think about, but when you see how that man explains things and how he is able to stay calm in situations and kind of focus himself, it's amazing. I highly recommend that you also watch some of his YouTube videos, his TED Talks. He's an amazing guy. His book starts with how he talked with Harvard graduates, and they had a budget. He had to negotiate with them, and he had to basically try to get as much money out of them as he could, and their agenda was to get the deal done but pay as little as possible. So it's amazing how he describes it. He talks about different concepts in the book, of course. One of them that he employs, which I like the most, is tactical empathy. So when you think of empathy, you're like, oh yeah, feeling just like the other person feels. But he explains in this book that you have to create an impression that the other person feels like they're getting a fair deal. So you have to employ empathy in situations where the customer or the potential client feels like they're not understood or something is missing, to kind of get to the position where they feel like, oh yeah, that person understands me, they're offering me a deal that's right for me. When you get there, then things start to happen, and you'll read more about that in the book. I highly recommend it. It's really, really cool. Definitely check out Chris Voss online. And now let's go to book number 5. Now, the book number 4 and book number 5, and you also see book number 6, are also very focused on negotiation, because a lot of the times you'll find yourself in situations with clients where some things need to happen and both sides kind of need to move, or they don't want to budge on whatever they're doing, and it needs to change in order for the deal to happen. So I wanted to put these 3 books here in place, just because you're going to find yourself a lot in situations where you have to kind of change the conversation or the style of talking or what you're doing or how you're doing it to get to the result. And book number 5 is William Urey's Getting to Yes. Now, this is a great book because he explains a really, really strong concept there, that people are focusing too much on their positions, like, oh, I don't have the money, or, oh, we need this to happen, or they create a position where it kind of feels like they're locked in, but they're not focusing on interests where they want to go or the outcomes where they want to be. So he emphasizes that people should focus more on interests than on positions, and the idea of figuring out an outcome that will be pleasant, good, or acceptable for both parties. So you as the seller and the client that's buying your product. When you figure out how you can both get to that point where you both know what you want and how you're going to get there, that's where the magic happens, and that's how you get to signing the contract and the client saying yes. Now, on number 6, we have again William Urey, and this time it's his book, Getting Past No. Very similar title to the previous book, but as I said, this book is also focused on negotiation, and what you will see a lot of times happen in sales is that you will get a lot of rejections and a lot of no's. Just be ready for that, guys. When you're starting a job in sales, be ready that a lot of people will say no to you. So you have to be okay with that. But a no is not always like a fixed no. A lot of the times it means that either the customer needs more information, or they need more time, or they need it explained in a different way, or they're skeptical because of something, or they don't trust you, or something is blocking them from making the decision. So it's not always a hard no. Sometimes it's like a soft no that can be bent around. And in this book, he focuses on how you can basically control your state and change the frame of the person, how they see the whole situation. And when you reframe the whole situation, then you kind of get closer to the desired outcome, which he also speaks about in the previous book, and that's how you get more deals done. So definitely work on that. Don't get discouraged by the no. Work on your confidence and work on how you handle the objection. And when you get to the no, one of the things that a friend of mine recommends that you might have watched in one of the previous interviews on the Uncle Go podcast is my colleague Marek. He speaks about the concept of like, if somebody says no to you, then just ask him like, why? And try to figure out what's behind it. Why are they saying no? Like, is there a specific reason? Is there an objection that you can maybe help solve, or do you need to adjust something in your offer? I really love this concept and I use it a lot. So definitely, if you want to use it, try it. You'll see great results with it. If you want to learn more about it, definitely check out the episode that I did with Marek. I'll leave the link right up here and also in the description. But now let's get back to book number 7. On number 7, we have the world famous Brian Tracey and his book, The Psychology of Selling. Now, this book could have been on place number 1. All of them basically could, because they're awesome. This one is like world known because Brian Tracey has written like 80 books. He's been in this business for like 50 years. He's done sales presentation all over the world, worked with so many clients and companies. He's done such a huge impact in the sales industry that it's just amazing. I definitely recommend this book. You'll see a lot of really, really good advice condensed into like a small book with a lot of details there. And if you're new to sales, this one might be also the one to start with. I couldn't decide which one you should start with first and which one might be the best, but I think this one is one of the better ones for starting. Also check out other Brian Tracey materials on personal development, mindset, and things like that. Eat That Frog is also a really, really good book on kind of the same topic, which will help you a lot in sales, like how to get things done faster. He basically focuses a lot on psychology of the customer and the whole sales process in this book. He talks about that a lot of purchases are emotional, not logical. People focus too much on logic, but what they should focus on are emotions. He talks a lot about that people are afraid of rejection and that they'll fail and that they won't succeed. I also think that a lot of people are afraid of success, and that's why they're not pushing themselves more. Two more concepts that he talks about is asking more and better questions, because a lot of people just want to talk and be like, this is my product, this is the best, because of you need to find out what the person wants, and to do that you need to ask more questions. So if you ask more questions, you'll get more information about the prospect. Also, you need to ask better questions so you know what to focus on, and that's how you improve it better. And the last concept is spending more time with better prospects. So just because you're talking to someone in the company doesn't mean that he is the decision maker. And sometimes people waste too much time, too much energy talking to the wrong person and getting nowhere. And even if they do a great sales presentation, even if they get through all their points and overcome all the objections, in the end you might get like, yeah, I'll just have to talk to my boss about that, or with my colleagues, or do a meeting, and then throughout the next week the whole sales process fails flat. So if you're spending more time with the right person, you will increase the chance that you get the deal done faster, and you will increase your results like that better. On number 8, we have the book called Gap Selling, written by Keenan. Now, this is a book that focuses on the problems that people had before in sales and kind of tackles in a new-fashioned way ideas that have been steeped into the culture. And he challenges those ideas by providing new solutions that, in his opinion, are kind of better, because he believes that there's a gap between what the customer wants and what you're offering. He also says that there are a lot of ways how you can get there, and that the price and the objections are not the problem. Also, the fact that the person doesn't like you doesn't mean that they're not going to buy from you. I had this happen once where I tried to get the person to like me a lot, and my colleague, who was kind of a lot less apologetic and really didn't care about if people like him or not, he got more sales than me. And I was like, man, how are you doing this? And he's like, I don't care. Like, I'll just tell them what the best value is, and I don't care if they like me or not, because he knew the product. He was focusing exactly on that. I was focusing on building the relationship and figuring out how the person will like me, which was, as this book says, the wrong approach. Because he says that if you manage to describe the right value and figure out where the customer is right now and where he needs to get to. By describing the value that he needs to understand, you will get to closing the sale. In this book, he kind of says that a lot of salespeople create the problems for themselves and that they have to work on their mindset. And in the book, he explains how to do it and how to improve yourself, basically to get to a place where you're just talking more about the value of the product and not trying to be liked or trying to correct some mistakes or trying to, jump through objections. And he's been very successful in helping companies improve their sales cycles, increase numbers and revenue and everything. So I recommend this book. I couldn't find much about the author, so definitely check him out online and some of his sales presentations. You'll love his energy and his unapologetic way of explaining things, and I kind of like that approach. I also think that some of the books that we covered in this video before were a little bit more old-fashioned. This one is a little bit more kind of newer, more edgy, and maybe even for a younger audience. So if you're looking to get some books for your sales team, definitely consider this one for maybe one of the younger fellows working in your company. And on number 9, we have Mike Weinberg's New Sales Simplified. Now, this is a really, really great book. I think it can be used by a lot of sales departments to train their new members, also to improve the quality of their current employees. And it has so many tactics inside. It has so many really cool tips, like say this, do that. And it will be really easy for you to just kind of like have the book in front of you and jump on a cold call and be like, all right, I'm going to try this one. And you will see that it will help you and it will improve your results. He talks about a lot of concepts. There's also psychology, also practical stuff. So you'll definitely love this book. It has a lot of information there. And if you're starting, definitely great. This one might be best for bigger teams where you have a lot of people doing kind of the same thing over and over again. So if you're looking for a really good book, maybe start with this one. And if you're a manager in sales departments, try going through this one. Try talking to your salespeople. I think they will get a lot of useful information out of this one. And last but not least, we have Jordan Belfort's Way of the Wolf, straight line selling. So if you've heard about Jordan Belfort, you know how infamous he is, but if you haven't, he's basically the guy upon whom they based the movie Wolf of Wall Street upon. And he's a real person. He really did a lot of crazy things, but he's also an amazing salesman. He's very convincing, and he developed his so-called straight line selling method because at one point he believed that every sales process is kind of the same, and everyone's like, what are you talking about? But basically he says that everything has to start with something and has to end with something. Like the start is where you say the first word or enter the room, and the last part of the line is the part where you close the process and everything finishes. But to roughly explain what the book talks about, is it walks through the whole straight line system. So basically, first of all, you have to take control of the whole situation. If you display confidence, sometimes dominance, but basically expertise in the area that you're talking about, that you believe in the product, that you know what you're talking about, that will help, right? Because if you don't have it, people won't listen to you. Second of all, you need to gather information about, like, is this person the right person for you? Do you have what they want? Do they have what you want? And basically get more of the juicy information that you need to sell the product. Then the next step will be basically to explain how your product solves their problem, or how you're offering a great solution, or how you're offering a better product, and basically transitioning into a position where you talk about your product and your services and then asking for the close. If you get a yes, that's great, but most of the time you don't. Most of the time you basically get a no or a maybe. And then you have to kind of loop it again through the whole system where you gather more information, try to see what the objection is, what you can do to kind of move around it or solve it, and then go for the ask again. So basically he does this in this loops where as soon as he asks, if he gets rejected, he basically starts looping it again until you get a hard no, and then that's basically it. Or until the prospect says, yes, we would like to buy your product. And then he just closes the deal. He also talks a lot about networking, and building a relationship with the customer is very important. He talks a lot about building a rapport with the person, that's super important, because when a person trusts you, they will come back to you. Because as Daniel Pink says in the first book in this list, to sell is human, and people want a person to sell to them. And a lot of the times you probably made a buying decision because you liked the person, not just because of the product. Because somebody gave a great presentation, you were like, oh wow, amazing. Otherwise you wouldn't have bought the product. So that just shows you how important selling is and how important the person is in this whole process. So definitely you have to work on your sales skills. It's not something that comes to everybody naturally. Some people are just born salesmen where they can just talk infinitely and they're so convincing that they can convey a message and you're like just, whoa man, this is amazing. I have a friend like that. Listening to his stories was just amazing. I remember sitting at a table with like 10 people sitting around, people just like, oh man, this is, and he was talking about something like, if another person told it to you, it'll be super boring, but he told it in such a way where everyone's like, oh man, this is such a great story. So you basically have to get to that point, and it's not easy for everyone. It's super hard if you don't have any practice. So what I would recommend is practice a lot. A lot of these situations are basically like yes, no, yes, try it again, this doesn't work, oh, this worked a little bit, can I improve this? And you basically have to go through a long process of trying out things to see what works for you, because not every selling tactic will work for every person. Every person's different, in my opinion. A lot of people say, like Jordan says, like anybody can sell this and use this. I'm not sure if 100% is always 100%, but I believe that everyone can do something to improve themselves at least a little bit and increase your numbers a little bit. Now guys, if you have any questions regarding sales or about this channel, definitely post them in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts and how you like this format of videos. Also, Marek will be returning to the Uncle Gold podcast as well as a guest, and he will talk a lot more about sales, sharing his tactics, his ways of how he convinced people to buy from him, how he negotiated deals, and a lot of really, really useful tips how you can increase your numbers, earn more money, and basically scale your business to a new level. I also encourage you to watch some of the episodes where I talked with entrepreneurs who run their companies, who are scaling their businesses. That might be very useful for you because it can shift your thinking from like, okay, how can I get to a new number to how can I improve my company? I'll leave the links for you guys here. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your coffee and tea, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye. Now, I encourage you to watch also a few other episodes that I did previously with some of the entrepreneurs on the Uncle Gold podcast. And in these interviews, you get a lot of info about how they think about their business and what they do to kind of improve their business. And that might help you in the sales process as well, because then you might get the perspective of what your boss needs from you to do as a salesman. But I highly recommend that if you're starting as a salesperson, definitely check out these books. Check out the links below where you can buy them online. My goal is to help a lot of people with this podcast. And right now I'm aiming for 1,000 subscribers. So if you want to support me and my whole team here that's working on improving your life and finding your gold in life, definitely hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Have a great day.